It's great to welcome back to the program today Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. Congressman, always good to see you. Not exactly ginger snaps and rainbows right now in terms of what's facing Congress. I want to talk a little bit about what's happening in Los Angeles, maybe as a representation of broader authoritarian concerns. I'm hearing from my audience, we sense that this is a palpably different moment than we've faced for a long time. We realize that this is a threat to law and order and the rule of law that we haven't seen for some time. But we're not really hearing what it is we can do, what it is that Democrats in the House and Senate, if anything, can do. What can we do to restrain this expansion of the power of the presidency? How are you and your colleagues seeing it? What can be done?
First of all, thanks for having me on, Dave. And you're absolutely right. This is a moment where I think that Donald Trump is provoking conflict. He's inflaming the situation. He's, in my opinion, he's trying to distract attention from what I call the large, lousy law, what he calls a big, beautiful bill, which is going to absolutely devastate Americans and working families. He wants to distract attention from that. He wants to distract attention from what Elon Musk is doing to him. And he wants all of us to be right in this conflict here in Los Angeles and maybe even other places. I mean, we have to be ready. I
Right.
think there are four things that we have to do right now, okay? First, I think that we Democrats have to absolutely shine a light on what is happening here. I don't think we should run away from this situation in the sense that we can't just say, "Oh, Trump is going to keep doing this. This is just normal stuff, normal Trump stuff. It's Trump being Trump." No, we can't do that. We have to shine a light that this is something that is a kind of an escalation in his behavior, and as a consequence, we have to affect public sentiment in the process. Because at the end of the day, I think that Donald Trump is not an ideologue. I don't think he believes in anything except helping himself. I think he's more of a populist, so he does care about what public sentiment is. And so we want to shape public sentiment as well. Secondly, we have to continue to pursue litigation on what is happening here. This is absolutely illegal, what he's doing. He is basically federalizing the National Guard
Right.
under false pretenses. And so we in Congress have to support that litigation that is happening on the outside and on the inside. Third, look, I keep saying this, we do have votes. And the question is, where do we have the most leverage here in Congress using those votes? We have to use that accordingly. I personally don't know that they're going to be able to pass this big, beautiful bill through the Senate right now. They may have to split it up in parts. They may have to actually have a debt limit bill run separately. Why is that important? They can only pass the debt limit with Democratic votes. What conditions do we attach to that debt limit bill if we decide to support it? I think it's going to have to do with avoiding all those cuts. And now we have this situation in Los Angeles. I think we have to think about that. And then fourth and finally, I think this is very important for your listeners, which is we have to hold people accountable. Where do you stand on this situation? And in California, there are several Republicans in the House who are in very tough battles, and we need to put them on the spot as well with regard to this situation. What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do to get President Trump, Donald Trump, to climb down from this illegal position? Those are the types of things that we have to do now. We have to put pressure as well.
All of that makes sense. And also, one of the kind of hallmarks of the 20th century authoritarian playbook, which to a degree we're seeing repeated right now, is the idea of generating a pretext to do more authoritarianism. And I think you know where I'm going with this, which is that right now this is in Los Angeles. And one of the reactions is we have to do more. We have to get out there more. We have to be more visible, versions of what you're saying. But we already suspect that if, for example, people in Illinois, your state, mass rally in Chicago, it will be used as a pretext, just like 20th century strongmen did, to say, well, let's send in the troops to
Right.
Chicago as well. And so the question is Is there any mechanism to interrupt that? Because to a degree, it seems he wants to draw people out in order to further double down on the authoritarianism.
Well, look, I think that we can't be silent, right? That can't be the alternative. And so I think that while we absolutely have to be careful about what you said, which is some kind of mass rally being used as a pretext for doing to them what they did in Los Angeles, I still think that shining a light, the benefits of that, so long as we obviously we're gonna be peaceful. We're gonna conduct this in a civil fashion, a peaceful fashion. I think the benefits of that may outweigh the risks of basically being silent. And I think we can't, through our silence, I guess, ratify what he's doing. Now, look, the other thing I just have to say is I get it. A lot of people are fearful. All right.
Yes.
I get that. I understand that. And if you are a listener to this show or a viewer and you feel fearful and you don't feel like you personally can speak up in the manner in which I'm saying, that's fine. We will do it. I will do it. Other people will do it. But what are the other ways that you can support us, right? For instance, you can offer material support. You can donate to some of these organizations potentially. You can support them through your legal services, your pro bono legal services of some kind. You can do other things to play a supporting role, even if you don't want to be the main protagonist or antagonist, whatever you want to call it. But everybody can play a part. And each part will be important right now.
I
Oh,
want
also,
to, yeah, go ahead.
can I say one? You can
Yeah,
also play a social media role. I mean,
right.
like the way that everybody seems to have a following of some kind or a social media group, and passing along this information to your social media group, engaging people is important as well because everybody is running a million miles an hour, and they may not pay attention to these issues the way they should. And so you elevating it also helps.
I'm not hearing the amount of activism around the issue of the student visas from the Democratic Party as maybe I would have expected. Do you think Democrats risk losing ground with immigrant and minority groups if they don't speak up more on the student visa issues? But then on the other hand, do you think generally that it's a bad idea to limit the number of international students at some of these schools? There are different arguments that have been made one way or the other about, listen, we're not going to start stripping people of visas, but at the same time, we should consider what sort of mix of the student population do we want? Where are you on this issue?
So this is how I view it. I think first of all, the revocation of international student visas doesn't make any sense, especially where the person whose visa is being revoked hasn't been proven to be a danger or hasn't conducted nefarious activities, and it's just plain wrong. And also, especially targeting Chinese origin people, just smacks of racism, discrimination, and prejudice to me. It feels like the Donald Trump playbook of the first Donald Trump term, where he went after Chinese people hard and used them in a way to kind of summon the worst instincts in people and play to their worst fears. Okay, so that's one observation.
Yep.
Second observation is, yes, I think each state university, for instance, or every university should think about what is the right balance that they have in their student body. What happened is, because of the decline in federal funding and state funding for a lot of institutions of higher learning, basically these institutions of higher learning turn to international students as a revenue source because they pay full freight.
Right.
Okay. And so we have to recognize why they did that to understand like how they can kind of balance out their student body better in a way to have more, local talent, local students, and so forth. And I think we have to recognize that if we continue to deprive these institutions of higher learning of funding, they're going to go into even more distress, and they may turn to international students more and more at the expense of local students. Third and finally, I think this is really important. Our international students, at whatever level you decide is appropriate, are absolutely crucial for our economy. I'm not just talking about them paying full freight for their tuition and room and board at University of Illinois. I'm talking about the fact that they end up being incredibly important for innovation and technologies of the future. 70% of greater than 70% of all graduate students in the STEM fields and computer science and engineering are international students.
Yes.
Most of these people will want to stay here. Most of them will want to work here and enrich our economy and allow us to maintain leadership in these technologies of the future over, for instance, Russia or the Chinese Communist Party. We need this. We need these people.
One of the really interesting things about what you're saying is, Elon Musk has talked a lot about our greatest existential threat is the declining birth rate. We've got to get it up, essentially by convincing people to have more kids. And one of the things I've learned in researching this issue is that as countries become wealthier, as people become more educated, as more and more women enter the workforce, you can't really talk families into having more kids. In every continent, as those things happen, the birth rate simply goes down. It seems to be just the kind of reality. And so one of the things that's interesting is that if you believe that growth is going to be driven by smart people innovating, as you're talking about and as seems to be the case, you actually need to increase immigration from other countries. Legal, of course, and so on. But it's an interesting conundrum in which they've placed themselves, where on the one hand, they're obsessed with people aren't having enough babies, but at the same time, their immigration policy is one that won't actually do that which would achieve the goal, which is bring smart people here and get them doing innovative things that generate growth and raise the GDP. It's an incredible conundrum that they've created, isn't it?
You're right on the money on this. Like the reason why, okay, so I think roughly during the time of Obama, around the second term, Europe and America basically had the same GDP. Since then, America has far exceeded Europe. Why? It's not because our birth rate went up a ton. It's not because of merely our productivity increasing. It's also because we legally have 1 million immigrants every single year. This has just been the steady
Right.
kind of immigration engine, if you will, for the United States. And the reason that that is so important is because it helps to rejuvenate our workforce, even at the same time that we have a silver tsunami in terms of more people retiring. We have a younger workforce, all the same, because we have people immigrating at young ages and providing that fuel for the social safety net. Okay, fuel for innovation, fuel for prosperity. So we absolutely have to keep that immigration engine going. And while we may have challenges at the border or whatever, we got to control that, obviously. But we can't kill the golden goose that keeps laying the golden eggs. That's our legal immigration system. I'm a legal immigrant. My parents came here when I was 3 months old. I came here when I was 3 months old. And so I know firsthand how important this is for our for America.
That's right. Yeah. No, I'm in the same situation. I came to the U.S. when I was 5.
Oh, from where,
Last thing from
David?
Argentina.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask you about when it comes to Russia, Ukraine, what do you see as the most likely off ramp, given that it'll be resolved within 24 hours of becoming president elect, it'll be solved within 24 hours of inauguration, to it'll be 100 days, to we're now thinking of walking away? What is the off ramp from this invasion of Ukraine by Russia?
Vladimir Putin is playing Trump. And I think Perhaps, I'm not positive, but perhaps I think people in the White House are starting to um, understand that. I don't know. But the only way that we get to any kind of armistice or truce of any kind, even a Korean style armistice,
Yep.
is we have to strengthen the hand of the Ukrainians. Okay. If you don't strengthen the hand of the Ukrainians, Putin will have absolutely no incentive to come to the bargaining table, even for an armistice or truce. Now, will he come to the bargaining table if the Ukrainians make certain concessions, such as they will not integrate into the European community, or they will not allow any other country to provide security guarantees? Maybe, but that is something that is, in my opinion, I think that would be unacceptable probably for the Ukrainians to agree to. I think they should be able to have complete sovereignty over their decision making. So if we believe that an armistice or truce should happen, but only in the context of the Ukrainians maintaining their sovereignty, we have to strengthen their hand on the battlefield. That's the only way that this is going to get better.
All right. We have been speaking with Democratic Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi. Congressman, always great to have you. I appreciate it.
David, thanks so much, man.